Best morning, my dear students. We are now in this illustrative example of finding the slope given at 2 points and a graph. So, for this example, we're going to compare the two ways of finding the slope. Now, on the screen, we have a graph or Cartesian plane with a straight line with 2 points. Now, based upon this label, we have the change in y or the change in the vertical distance, which is 1. So from this point up to this point, the change in vertical distance is 1. And from this point up to this point, we have the change in the horizontal distance, which is 2. So 1, and then from this point, we count 1, 2. So we have 2. So we have, since the ratio between the change of the vertical distance and the change of the horizontal distance is the slope, we have 1 divided by 2. So, ganito lang kadali. But be mindful, guys, that the line is going or leaning towards the right. Therefore, the slope must be positive. Now, we compare this one with the previous way of finding the slope given 2 points. No? So, for the first point, we have 1 for the value of x, 1, and then the value of y is also 1. And then for the second point, we have x is 3, comma, 2. Okay, yun. X sub 1 is 1, y sub 1 is 1, and x sub 2 is 3, y sub 2 is 2. So for the formula, we have y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Actually, this is the change of in y or the vertical distance all over the change in x or the horizontal distance. Now, if we are going to substitute the values respectively, we have y sub 2 is 2 minus y sub 1 is 1. Ito. All over x sub 2 is 3 minus y sub 1 is 1. Now, we have 2 minus 1 is actually 1. All over 3 minus 1 is actually 2. So, the same lang. Diba? So, ganito lang kadali. You count how many units above and then you stop pag nandyan na siya mismo sa harapan ng ikalawang point. So, that counting must be the change in y or the vertical distance. Now, tapos, count uli papunta sa ikalawang ikalawang point. Pag nasa pagitan going to the right, no? It must be positive. So, 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. So, the same lang. What about this one? So, ito yung sabi ko sa inyo. Be mindful because the line is leaning towards the left. Therefore, the result of this one must be negative. 2 divided by 2 is 1. But since the line is going to the left, this is negative 1. You might be questioning, Sir, bakit positive, sir? Ito. Alangan naman guys, ang simpleng sagot is we are talking about distance, no? Pag sabihin nating distance, walang measurement na distansya na negative. It's always positive. So that's why we use this positive value here. But we will be, again, given a warning because the line is going to the left. So therefore, we must answer slope is negative 1. So let us examine. First value of point is, the coordinate is the value of y, value of x is 0, 2, comma, 0. Bakit? Kasi walang value sa y dito. Nasa x-axis kasi siya. And the second one is x value is 0 and the y value is 2. Kasi nasa y-axis. And x sub 1 is 2, y sub 1 is 0, x sub 2 is 0, y sub 2 is 2. So, following the slope formula, we have the change in y sub 2 minus y sub 1, all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, and then substitute all the values respectively. We have 2 minus 0. And the other one is 0 minus 2. So we have 2 minus 0 is 2. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And simplifying, we have negative 1. So, positive divided by negative, the answer is negative 1. So, in here, by inspection, no, 2 units above, that is a change in y. And then, 2 units towards the left, 2 units pa rin kasi distance eh. So, 2 divided by 2 is actually 1. But since the line is going to the left, yun lang ang pinaka-importante. Dapat di tayo magkamali. No? Magkamali. So, slope must be negative 1. In here, you notice that there is no change in y. Walang nagbabago sa vertical distance. So, pag walang nagbabago, automatically that is 0. No? 0 divided by the change in y, which is 1, 2, 3. 0 divided by 3, that is simply 0. And we notice a characteristic that the line is parallel to x-axis. So, therefore, the slope must be 0. So, comparing, we have the first point, x value is negative 2, and then y value is negative 1, and the second coordinate is x value is 1, and the second value is negative 1. So, x sub 1 is negative 2, y sub 1 is negative 1, x sub 2 is 1, y sub 2 is negative 1. Using the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Then substituting, y sub 2 is negative 1 minus negative 1, so enclosed in a parenthesis. All over x sub 2 is 1 minus, okay, enclosed in a parenthesis, negative 2. So this becomes negative 1 plus 1 all over 1 plus 2. So for the denominator, we have 3, but for the numerator, we have 0 over 3. And any number divided by 0 divided by any number, the answer is always 0. So, yun lang yun, no? By inspection, pag walang change in y, automatic 0 ang slope. At by inspection din, if parallel siya sa x-axis, automatically, that is also 0. For the fourth example, so, ito naman, there is no change in x, only change in y. And it's parallel to the y-axis. So, change in y is 1, 2. But there is no change in x. So, 2 divided by 0, that is undefined. So, check natin. For the first coordinate, we have negative 1, comma, negative 1. For the second coordinate, we have negative 1, comma, 1. For x sub 1, negative 1, y sub 1, negative 1. X sub 2, negative 1, y sub 2 is 1. Now, using the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Substituting all the values, y sub 2 is 1 minus, that's negative 1. Okay, enclosed in a parenthesis. All over x sub 2 is negative 1. Y sub x sub 1 is also negative 1. So, enclosed in a parenthesis din. So, 1 minus negative 1, that is 1 plus 1. Ito, negative 1 plus 1, that is 0. So, this will become 2 over 0. And any number divided by 0 is always undefined. So, ganito lang kasimple, no? Only change in y, but there is no change in x, automatic, undefined. And para mas madali, tingnan nyo lang yung linya. Nakaparallel siya sa y-axis. Automatic din yan, undefined. So, that's the difference. To wrap up, guys, in finding the slope using a graph, you only need to use your naked eye. Yung tanawin, mata lang yung gamitin natin, di ba? Tapos, count, going up, or going to the left. If going to the left, expected negative. Run towards the left. Runs towards the right, expected yan, positive ang answer. So, pag parallel naman sa x-axis, 0 yung slope. Pag parallel naman sa y-axis, 0 yung undefined yung, yung slope. So, sana may natutunan kayo guys. God bless us all and take care always.